The vastness of space held many secrets, but none were as dangerous as the arrogance of those who believed they ruled it. The Valdrine Imperium had controlled 4,000 worlds for over 10 millennia. Their ships crossed the stars with ease. Their weapons had broken entire civilizations. Their empire stretched so far that light itself took years to cross from one border to another. They had never lost a war. They had never met a species they could not conquer. Until now. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Morning Star, staring at the sensor readings with growing concern. The exploration vessel had been charting the outer territories of human space when the unknown ships appeared. 17 massive warships, each one 3 times the size of his vessel, had dropped out of faster-than-light travel just beyond the colony world of New Jeju. Their design was unfamiliar. Their energy signatures were immense, and they were broadcasting a message on all frequencies. "Captain, the translation is complete," Dr. Yuna said from her station. The xenobiologist looked tired. They had been working for 6 hours to decode the alien language. "You're not going to like this." Hyunwoo nodded for her to continue. On the main screen, a being appeared. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in dark scales that shimmered with a purple sheen. 4 eyes glowed with amber light. Its mouth held rows of sharp teeth. The creature wore ornate armor that pulsed with energy. Behind it, dozens of similar beings worked at stations that looked more like works of art than technology. The being spoke, and Yuna's translation filled the bridge. "Attention, primitive species. I am Admiral Thalrex of the Valdrine Imperium, 4th Fleet Commander and Subjugator of the Outer Rim. You have established colonies in territory claimed by the Imperium. This is unacceptable. You will immediately cease all expansion. You will abandon your settlements on the 17 worlds you currently occupy. You will present your homeworld's coordinates and surrender all military assets. You have 72 hours to comply. Failure to do so will result in the complete eradication of your species. This is your only warning." The message ended. Silence filled the bridge. Hyunwoo felt his jaw tighten. Beside him, Jinho, the young tactical officer, looked up from his console with wide eyes. "Sir, they think we're going to just give up everything we've built?" "That's exactly what they think," Hyunwoo replied quietly. He opened a channel to Earth. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Morning Star to Earth Command. We have a situation." 3 hours later, Ambassador Daewon arrived at the Morning Star via shuttle. The elderly diplomat had served Earth for 40 years. He had negotiated treaties, resolved conflicts, and prepared for this exact moment since humans first reached the stars. He had always known that someday, humanity would meet another spacefaring civilization. He had hoped it would be peaceful. He had prepared for it not to be. "Have they responded to our attempt at communication?" Daewon asked as he stepped onto the bridge. "No, Ambassador," Yuna replied. "They've ignored every message we've sent. They seem to believe the conversation is over." Daewon nodded slowly. "Then we'll make them listen. Open a channel directly to their flagship. Maximum broadcast strength. I want to make sure they hear this." The channel opened. Admiral Thalrex appeared on screen again, looking annoyed at the interruption. His 4 eyes narrowed when he saw Daewon. "You dare respond to an Imperial decree?" Thalrex's voice rumbled like thunder. "Your time is limited, primitive. Use it wisely." Daewon smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "Admiral Thalrex, I am Ambassador Daewon of Earth. I speak for humanity. We have listened to your demands. We must respectfully decline." Thalrex's scales darkened. Several of the Valdrine crew members behind him stopped working, turning to stare at the screen in what looked like shock. "You decline?" Thalrex leaned forward. "Perhaps you do not understand your situation. My fleet alone could reduce your colony to ash within minutes. The full might of the Imperium spans 4,000 worlds. You have barely left your home system. You are children playing among the stars. You will comply, or you will die." "We understand our situation perfectly," Daewon said calmly. "We also understand yours, though I suspect you do not. We have no desire for conflict, Admiral. We wish only to live in peace. We will not surrender our homes. We will not abandon our people. We are offering you a chance to withdraw and open proper diplomatic channels. Please take this opportunity." Thalrex laughed. The sound was harsh and mocking. "Diplomatic channels? You offer me diplomacy? I have conquered species far greater than yours. I have witnessed the fall of empires that existed before your son was born. And you think you can negotiate with me?" "We're not negotiating," Hyunwoo said, stepping forward. "We're warning you." The Admiral's eyes focused on the captain. Warning me? A human in an exploration vessel warns a Valdrine fleet admiral? Yes, Hyunwoo said simply. We are asking you to reconsider. Don't misjudge us. We don't want war, but we won't be victims either. Leave now while you still can. The bridge of the Morning Star went completely silent. Even Daewon looked surprised at Hyunwoo's directness. Jinho tried to hide a smile. Thalrex stared at them for a long moment. Then he began to laugh again. The Valdrine crew joined in. The sound echoed through the communication channel. This is remarkable, Thalrex said when he finally stopped laughing. You actually believe you could fight us. You actually think your warning means something. Very well, humans. I admire your courage, foolish as it is. I will give you one final chance. 72 hours. Surrender or face extinction. Choose wisely. The channel cut off. The main screen went dark. Hyunwoo turned to face his crew. Every person on the bridge was looking at him. Get me a secure line to Fleet Admiral Minseo, he said quietly. It's time. Daewon placed a hand on Hyunwoo's shoulder. You know what this means. Once we commit to this path, there's no going back. They didn't give us another path, Hyunwoo replied. We tried peace. We offered them a way out. They chose this. Yuna pulled up a tactical display. The 17 Valdrine ships maintained their position just outside the new Jeju system. They weren't moving closer. They weren't preparing for immediate attack. They were waiting. They expected humanity to break. They expected fear and surrender. Captain, Jinho said softly, do you really think we can win? Hyunwoo looked at the young officer. Jinho was 26 years old. He had never seen combat. None of them had. Humanity had been peaceful for over a century. They had focused on exploration, on building new homes among the stars, on creating a better future, but they had not forgotten their past. They had not forgotten what they were capable of when pushed. I don't know if we can win, Hyunwoo said honestly, but I know we won't lose without making them regret ever finding us. The communication with Earth Command connected. Fleet Admiral Minseo appeared on screen. The older woman's face was grave but determined. Captain Hyunwoo, Ambassador Daewon, I've been briefed on the situation. The Council has made their decision. She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. We stand, we fight, and we show them exactly who they're dealing with. Prepare for fleet deployment. Humanity goes to war. Across human space, on 17 colony worlds and 100 orbital stations, people looked up at the stars. They didn't know that everything was about to change. They didn't know that their peaceful existence was ending. They didn't know that the Valdrine Imperium had just made the worst mistake in its 10,000-year history. Admiral Thalrex sat in his command chair, already composing the victory report he would send to Empress Calcina. Another species conquered, another world added to the Imperium. It would be simple. It would be quick. It would be glorious. He had no idea how wrong he was. The flagship Eternal Dominion was a marvel of Valdrine engineering. 5 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could crack planets powered by reactors that harvested energy from dying stars. Admiral Thalrex had commanded this vessel for 200 years. He had used it to bring 47 species into the Imperium. Some had joined willingly. Most had not. It made no difference. The Imperium always won. Thalrex stood before the tactical display in his war room, studying the human territories. Sub-Commander Vorath stood beside him, manipulating the holographic interface to show different data streams. The younger officer had served under Thalrex for only 30 years, but he had proven to be an excellent analyst. Their expansion pattern is unusual, Vorath said, highlighting the 17 human-controlled systems in red. Most young species establish colonies close to their homeworld. They build slowly, cautiously, but these humans, they spread far and wide. Some of their colonies are dozens of light years from Earth. Desperation, Thalrex replied dismissively. Their homeworld is likely overpopulated. They scatter like insects seeking new nests. Perhaps, Vorath said, though his tone suggested doubt. But their ships are faster than expected for such a primitive species. Our intelligence estimates they've only been traveling faster than light for 150 years. Yet their drive technology is nearly as efficient as ours. Thalrex waved a clawed hand. Luck. Perhaps they stumbled upon old technology from a dead civilization. It happens. It means nothing. Vorath pulled up another display. Their industrial capacity is also anomalous. We detected massive orbital construction facilities around every colony world, mining operations in hundreds of asteroid belts, automated factories producing materials at rates that seem excessive for their population size. They build too much because they know too little, Thalrex said. Inefficiency born of inexperience. They waste resources because they haven't learned better. Sir, with respect, I'm not certain that's the correct interpretation. Vorath hesitated, choosing his words carefully. I accessed the cultural database we collected from their communication networks. The humans have extensive historical records available publicly. I think you should review them. Thalrex fixed his 4 eyes on his subordinate. You waste time studying primitive history? It's not a waste, Admiral. Please look at this. Vorath brought up a timeline. This is human history for the last 5,000 years. Every red marker represents a war. Every black marker represents a near-extinction event. The display lit up with thousands of red markers. Hundreds of black ones. Thalrex leaned closer, his expression shifting from annoyance to curiosity. They fight constantly, Vorath continued. They have warred with each other for their entire recorded history. They developed atomic weapons and used them on their own kind. They created biological weapons and deployed them. They built machines to kill more efficiently. They've faced ice ages, asteroid impacts, pandemics, and environmental collapse. And every time they survived. Every time they adapted. Many species have violent pasts, Thalrex said, though his voice had lost some of its certainty. The Imperium itself was forged in blood. This proves nothing. There's more. Vorath pulled up military records. Look at how they wage war. They study it. They have thousands of years of tactical knowledge. They write books about strategy. They teach it in schools. They remember every battle, every victory, every defeat. This species thinks about warfare the way we think about art. Thalrex studied the data in silence. He saw records of human conflicts spanning millennia. Wars fought with sticks and stones. Wars fought with guns and bombs. Wars fought in trenches and in the sky and across entire continents. The brutality was shocking. The innovation was disturbing. The persistence was terrifying. They even fought themselves, Vorath said quietly. 2 global wars in the span of 30 years. The second one killed over 60 million of their own kind. And they didn't collapse. They rebuilt. They continued. Why are you showing me this? Thalrex demanded. Do you fear them?
Do you doubt our superiority?
I don't doubt our technology, Vorath replied carefully. But I question our assumptions. We have assumed they are weak because they are young. We have assumed they will surrender because we are strong. But Admiral, what if they don't think like other species? What if they see our threat and respond the way they've always responded to threats? With violence, Thalrex said slowly. Calculated, efficient, devastating violence, Vorath confirmed. Sir, their captain warned us. He told us not to misjudge them. What if that wasn't bravado? What if it was an actual warning? Thalrex turned away from the display. He walked to the massive viewport that showed the stars beyond. The human colony of New Jeju was visible as a small point of light in the distance. I have conquered 47 species, Thalrex said. I have seen every kind of resistance. The proud warriors who fight to the last. The cunning strategists who try to outmaneuver us. The desperate survivors who beg for mercy. They all fell. They all joined the Imperium or died. These humans will be no different. But what if they are? Vorath pressed. What if we're walking into something we don't understand? Before Thalrex could respond, a priority communication alert sounded. The holographic form of Empress Calcina materialized in the center of the war room. The ruler of the Valdrine Imperium stood 3.5 meters tall, her scales a brilliant shade of violet that marked her royal bloodline. Her 4 eyes glowed with golden light. Both officers immediately knelt. Empress, Thalrex said, you honor us with your presence. Rise, Admiral, Subcommander. Calcina's voice was smooth and commanding. I have reviewed your reports on the human situation. The Council is watching this engagement with great interest. The situation is well in hand, Your Majesty, Thalrex said confidently. The humans will surrender within the deadline or they will be eliminated. Either outcome serves the Imperium. See that they do surrender, Admiral. We require a demonstration of Imperial power. Several other species in the Outer Rim have grown restless. They need to be reminded of the consequences of defiance. These humans will serve as that reminder. It will be done, Empress. Calcina's eyes shifted to Vorath. Subcommander, you look troubled. Speak freely. Vorath glanced at Thalrex, then straightened his posture. Your Majesty, I have concerns about the human capacity for warfare. Their history suggests they may be more dangerous than we initially assessed. More dangerous than our fleet? Calcina's tone was amused. More dangerous than the full might of the Imperium? No, Your Majesty, but perhaps dangerous enough to make this conquest costly. All conquests have costs, Calcina replied. That is the nature of empire. However, I did not build the greatest civilization in the galaxy by being foolish. Admiral Thalrex, you are authorized to use minimal force to secure compliance. If the humans resist, you may destroy military targets. But I want prisoners. I want their leadership alive to witness their defeat. Is this understood? Perfectly, Your Majesty. Good, you have 3 days. Do not disappoint me. The hologram faded. Thalrex turned to Vorath with a look of irritation. You made me appear uncertain before the Empress. I stated my concerns honestly as she commanded. Your concerns are noted and dismissed. Thalrex returned to the tactical display. Prepare the fleet for assault. When the deadline expires, we move on the new Jeju colony. We will demonstrate Imperial power. We will accept their surrender. And we will prove that these humans are no different from any other species we have conquered. Vorath bowed his head in acknowledgement, but doubt gnawed at him. He had studied the humans more thoroughly than anyone else on the ship. He had read their literature, their philosophy, their military doctrine, and one phrase kept echoing in his mind. Something written by a human general thousands of years ago. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. The problem was simple and terrifying. The Valdrine knew themselves. They had never lost. They had never needed to truly understand an enemy because overwhelming force had always been enough. But did they really know the humans? Did they understand what they were dealing with? Vorath looked at the countdown timer floating above the tactical display. 68 hours remaining. 68 hours until the deadline expired. 68 hours until they discovered whether the humans would break or fight back. Deep in his hearts, Vorath suspected they were about to find out what happened when an unstoppable empire met a species that refused to be stopped. And he feared that Admiral Thalrex's confidence would cost them dearly. The Eternal Dominion maintained its position, weapons powered, shields raised, crew ready. 17 Valdrine warships, crewed by thousands of soldiers, backed by an empire of 4,000 worlds. Against them, one small human colony and whatever forces Earth could muster in 3 days. The Valdrine saw certain victory. They saw a primitive species about to learn the price of defiance. They saw another glorious conquest to add to their long history. They didn't see the trap closing around them. They didn't see the calculations being made by human military minds that had spent centuries perfecting the art of war. They didn't see the determination of a species that had climbed from caves to stars through sheer stubborn will. Earth's Unified Defense Command sat 300 meters below the surface of the planet, protected by layers of reinforced steel and advanced shielding. Fleet Admiral Minseo stood at the head of the conference table, looking at the faces of humanity's leadership. Politicians, military commanders, scientists, and civilian representatives from all 17 colony worlds. Every person in this room understood what was at stake. The Valdrine deadline expires in 60 hours, Minseo said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. We have a decision to make. Do we surrender or do we fight? We can't surrender, said Director Tae Young, head of strategic intelligence. Even if we wanted to, it wouldn't save us. I've analyzed every first contact scenario in the Valdrine historical database. Species that surrender peacefully are absorbed into the Imperium. Their cultures are erased. Their people become subjects. Their worlds become property. It's not survival. It's extinction with extra steps, and if we fight, ask Counselor Hei-Wan, Earth's civilian administrator. We're talking about war with an empire that controls 4,000 worlds. They have resources we can't match, numbers we can't compete with, technology we barely understand. Actually, Tae Young said, pulling up a holographic display, their technology isn't as advanced as we feared. It's mature and reliable, but it's old. They haven't needed to innovate because they've never faced serious opposition. Our ships are smaller, yes, but they're newer. Our weapons are different. And we have one advantage they don't expect, which is, Hei-Wan asked. We know how to fight when we're outnumbered, Minseo said. We've been doing it for our entire history. The conference room fell silent. Everyone understood the reference. Humanity's past was soaked in blood and struggle. They had fought wars that killed millions. They had faced enemies that should have destroyed them, and they had survived every single time through adaptation, innovation, and sheer determination. "Show them the analysis," Mincio said to Tae-young. The intelligence director nodded and brought up detailed files on the Valdrine military. "We've been monitoring their communications for the past 3 days. Their fleet operates on predictable patterns. They rely heavily on overwhelming force rather than tactical flexibility. Their command structure is rigid. They expect enemies to fight traditionally, ship to ship, in open space. And we won't fight traditionally," said Admiral Sang-woo, commander of the Third Fleet. "We fight smart." "Exactly." Tae-young highlighted several tactical scenarios. "We've been preparing for first contact scenarios since we first reached the stars. We didn't know who we'd meet or when, but we knew we might face superior numbers. So we developed asymmetric warfare doctrines, hit-and-run tactics, ambush strategies, automated defense systems. We built our military to punch far above its weight class." "How far above?" Haewon asked. Mincio smiled grimly. "Let me show you something that's been classified until now." She input a security code, and new data flooded the displays. Ship counts, weapon inventories, defense installations. The numbers were staggering. Haewon's eyes widened. "This many? We have this many military assets?" "We've been building in secret for decades," Mincio confirmed. "Every colony has hidden defense platforms. Every asteroid field has automated weapons. Every space station can convert to a fortress. The Valdrine see 17 small colonies. They don't see the military infrastructure we've woven into everything we've built." Governor Ji-won of New Jeju appeared on screen via holographic link. The middle-aged woman looked tired but determined. "Admiral, the Valdrine fleet is positioning themselves for an assault on my colony. My people are scared. Some are demanding we evacuate. Will you evacuate?" Mincio asked, Ji-won's jaw set firmly. "No, this is our home. We built it with our own hands. We won't abandon it because some alien empire thinks they can take it from us. But I need to know, can you protect us?" "I can't promise there won't be damage," Mincio said honestly. "I can't promise everyone will survive. But I can promise that we will fight for New Jeju with everything we have. And I can promise that the Valdrine will regret choosing your world as their target." Ji-won nodded. "That's all I needed to hear. New Jeju stands with Earth. We'll do whatever is necessary." The hologram faded. Mincio turned back to the assembled leaders. "That's the courage we're facing this with. A colony governor who refuses to run. Citizens who choose to defend their homes rather than flee. That's who we are. That's what the Valdrine don't understand about humanity." "We still need a battle plan," Sang-woo said. "The Valdrine have 17 ships. We can match that number, but their vessels are larger and more heavily armed." "Then we don't fight ship to ship," said Captain Hyun-woo, who had joined the conference via secure link from the Morning Star. "We fight smart. We use every advantage we have." "Explain," Mincio ordered. Hyun-woo transferred tactical data to the main display. "My tactical officer Jin-ho proposed an unconventional strategy. It's based on historical battle tactics adapted for space warfare. We call it the hammer and anvil." The display showed the new Jeju system in detail. The colony world. 3 moons. An asteroid belt. Several gas giants in the outer system. Jin-ho's plan lit up across all of it. "The Valdrine will expect us to defend the colony directly," Hyun-woo explained. "They'll expect our fleet to form a defensive line. Instead, we position our visible fleet as bait. We make them think they're facing a smaller force than they actually are. Meanwhile, we activate the hidden defense platforms in the asteroid belt and around the moons. Thousands of automated weapon systems, kinetic kill vehicles, missile batteries, everything. They'll be caught in a crossfire," Sang-woo said, studying the plan. "But they have shields. How do we penetrate them?" "We overwhelm them," Jin-ho's voice came through the link. "Valdrine shields are designed to stop high-energy weapons, lasers, plasma cannons. But our intelligence shows they're less effective against kinetic weapons. Simple mass moving at high velocity. Railguns," Tae-young said with a grin. "We hit them with old-fashioned projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed." "Exactly," Hyun-woo confirmed. "And while they're dealing with the kinetic bombardment, our manned fighters engage. Small, fast, impossible to track easily. We exploit their tactical blind spots." Mincio studied the plan from every angle. It was risky. It required precise timing. But it had one critical advantage. It was completely unlike anything the Valdrine would expect. There's one more element, Hyunwoo said quietly. Psychological warfare. Meaning? Haewon asked. The Valdrine expect us to be afraid. They expect us to act like prey. Instead, we show them we're predators. We broadcast on their frequencies. We play music. We transmit historical battle recordings. We let them hear what humanity sounds like when we go to war. We make them understand they're not hunting us. They're trapped with us. The room went silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just a military strategy. It was a message. A declaration that humanity would not go quietly into subjugation. If we do this, Haewon said slowly, there's no going back. We'll be committing to war with an interstellar empire. They committed us to war when they issued their ultimatum, Taeyoung replied. We're just responding. Minseo looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. I need a vote. All in favor of engaging the Valdrine fleet? Every hand rose. Not one person hesitated. Then it's decided. Minseo straightened her shoulders. Captain Hyunwoo, you're promoted to fleet commander. You'll lead the defense of New Jeju. Choose your ships and your crews. I want our best people on this. Understood, Admiral. Director Taeyoung, coordinate with intelligence. I want to know everything about those Valdrine ships. Weak points, command protocols, crew rotations, everything. Already on it. Governor Jiwon, prepare your colony for potential orbital strikes. Get civilians into shelters. Reinforce critical infrastructure. We'll be ready. Minseo took a deep breath. Everyone else start mobilizing our forces across all 17 systems. If the Valdrine send reinforcements, we need to be ready to defend every colony. This battle at New Jeju is just the beginning. The meeting dissolved into organized chaos as people rushed to their stations. Minseo remained standing at the table, looking at the tactical display of the New Jeju system. Beside her, Sang-woo spoke quietly. Do you really think we can win? I think we can make them bleed, Minseo replied. And I think once they realize we won't surrender, they'll have to reassess everything they thought they knew about us. That might be enough. And if it isn't, then we make them remember us. We make sure that even if they win, they understand the cost of fighting humanity. We make them think twice before threatening another species. Across human space, fleets began to move. Ships that had been disguised as civilian vessels activated military systems. Orbital platforms that looked like simple satellites revealed weapon arrays. Mining stations in asteroid belts powered up railguns that could launch projectiles at devastating velocities. Captain Hyunwoo sat on the bridge of the Morning Star, now surrounded by a fleet of 80 warships. Each one smaller than the Valdrine vessels but faster, more maneuverable, and crewed by people who understood exactly what they were fighting for. Jin-ho worked at his tactical station, coordinating with the automated defense systems. Thousands of weapons platforms. The timer reached 0. The deadline expired. Admiral Thalrex stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, watching the human colony world of New Jeju grow larger on the view screen. 17 Valdrine warships moved in formation, a display of overwhelming power designed to break the spirit of anyone who dared resist. Status report, Thalrex commanded. Sensors detect 80 human vessels in defensive positions around the colony, reported the tactical officer. They're smaller than our ships, Admiral. Average displacement is 1/3 the size of our destroyers. Thalrex allowed himself a smile. 80 ships against 17. They think numbers will save them. How primitive. Beside him, Sub-Commander Vorath studied his tactical display with growing unease. Sir, their formation is unusual. They're not creating a defensive line. They're scattered across multiple orbital planes, and I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the asteroid belt and the moons. Mining equipment, Thalrex said dismissively. They're an industrial species. Of course they have machinery everywhere. Admiral, I recommend caution. This doesn't match any standard defensive pattern, because they don't know how to fight a real battle. Thalrex opened a channel to the fleet. All ships advance to engagement range. Weapons free. Target their military vessels first. Once they're destroyed, we'll demand the colony's surrender. The Valdrine fleet accelerated, massive ships cutting through space with impressive speed. Energy shields glowed around each vessel, powered by reactors that could sustain bombardment for hours. Their weapons charged, capable of reducing the human ships to debris with a few shots. On the bridge of the Morning Star, Captain Hyunwoo watched the Valdrine approach. His hands were steady. His voice was calm. All ships hold position. Wait for my mark. He switched to a separate channel. Jinho, status on the automated systems? All platforms online and ready, Captain. We have 15,000 individual weapons locked and loaded. They have no idea we're here. Good. Keep it that way until I give the word. Hyunwoo looked at his crew. Every person was focused, professional, ready. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human who will ever look up at the stars. We're showing the galaxy who we are. Let's make it count. The Valdrine fleet crossed into weapons range. Thalrex raised a clawed hand. Fire. Energy beams lanced across space. Brilliant streams of destructive power that struck the human ships. Shields flared. Several vessels took damage. One frigate exploded, its reactor overloading in a flash of white light. They're fragile, Thalrex observed. This will be over quickly. But the human ships didn't retreat. Instead, they accelerated forward, diving toward the Valdrine formation at speeds that seemed reckless. Their weapons fired, missiles and energy beams that splashed against Valdrine shields with minimal effect. They're attacking? The tactical officer sounded confused. Sir, they can't possibly hope to penetrate our defenses. They're desperate, Thalrex said. Press the attack. Destroy them all. The battle seemed to unfold exactly as the Admiral expected. The human ships were faster, darting between the Valdrine vessels, but their weapons weren't powerful enough to cause serious damage. They were annoying like insects buzzing around giants, and then Hyunwoo gave the order. Jinho now. Light them up. Across the new Jeju system, thousands of weapon platforms activated simultaneously. The asteroid belt came alive with energy signatures. The 3 moons revealed hidden batteries. Orbital stations that had looked dormant suddenly blazed with targeting systems. On the Eternal Dominion, alarms screamed. Sir, I'm reading massive weapon signatures. The tactical officer's voice pitched higher. Thousands of them. They were hidden in the asteroids, on the moons, in orbit around the gas giants. Borath's eyes widened in shock. It's a trap. They lured us in. Before Thalrex could respond, the first wave hit. Railgun projectiles, simple chunks of metal accelerated to incredible velocities, slammed into the Valdrine fleet. The ship's energy shields, designed to dissipate energy weapons, offered limited protection against solid mass moving at a fraction of light speed. A Valdrine destroyer took a direct hit. The projectile punched through the shield, through the armor and out the other side. The ship listed internal explosions tearing through its hull, evasive maneuvers. Thalrex roared. Return fire on those platforms. But the platforms were spread across millions of kilometers. They were small, automated, and there were thousands of them. The Valdrine fleet tried to target them, but for every platform they destroyed, 10 more fired. The kinetic bombardment was relentless. Shield strength at 70%, reported the tactical officer. 65%. 60%. How are they penetrating our shields? Thalrex demanded. They're not using energy weapons, sir. They're using mass. Simple projectiles. Our shields can't stop them all. Vorath pulled up the tactical display. The situation was degrading rapidly. 3 Valdrine ships were already severely damaged. 2 more were maneuvering to escape the kill zone. And the human ships that had seemed so weak moments ago were now executing precision strikes against damaged vessels. They knew. Vorath said quietly. They knew exactly how to fight us. Pilot So-hyun led her fighter squadron through the chaos, her craft barely larger than a Valdrine escape pod. 20 fighters followed her, weaving between the massive warships with practiced ease. Target the sensor arrays, she commanded. Make them blind. The fighters unleashed their payloads, small missiles, each one guided by human pilots who had trained for scenarios exactly like this. They struck the Valdrine ship's sensor clusters, communications arrays, and shield generators. Individual hits meant little, but coordinated strikes created critical vulnerabilities. On the Eternal Dominion, Thalrex watched his fleet fall apart. A cruiser exploded, its reactor breached by sustained kinetic bombardment. Another vessel reported total shield failure. The humans were everywhere, their automated weapons creating a web of fire that the Valdrine couldn't escape. Admiral, we need to withdraw, Vorath said urgently. We're losing ships. No! Thalrex slammed his fist against his command chair. We are the Valdrine Imperium. We do not retreat from primitives. These aren't primitives, sir. They planned this. They wanted us to attack. They've been ready for us since before we arrived. As if to emphasize the point, another wave of kinetic projectiles slammed into the fleet. The Eternal Dominion shuddered, its shields flickering under the assault. Hyunwoo watched the battle unfold from his tactical display. The plan was working. The Valdrine were trapped, surrounded by weapons they couldn't easily destroy, fighting an enemy that refused to engage them on their terms. "Captain, should we press the attack?" asked his tactical officer. "Not yet. Let the automated systems do their work. Keep our manned ships focused on precision strikes. I want to minimize our casualties." Hyunwoo opened a wideband channel. "Jinho, activate the psychological warfare protocol." Across every Valdrine communication frequency, sound erupted. Music. Human music. War drums and battle hymns from a dozen different cultures, songs of defiance and victory, and underneath it all, voices. Humans speaking in dozens of languages, but all saying the same thing. "We warned you. We told you not to misjudge us. You didn't listen." On the Valdrine ships, crew members looked at each other in confusion and growing fear. This wasn't how conquests went. The enemy was supposed to be afraid. They were supposed to beg for mercy. Instead, the humans were broadcasting their war, songs while systematically destroying the Valdrine. Fleet Engineer Dongjun monitored the kinetic weapons from his station on the orbital platform designated Defense Station 7. The automated systems were performing perfectly, but he had saved his best weapon for the right moment. "Captain Hyunwoo, this is Dongjun. I'm ready to deploy the experimental package." "Do it," Hyunwoo confirmed. Dongjun activated the weapon his team had designed specifically for this scenario. A series of missiles, each one carrying not explosives but hundreds of small projectiles. They launched toward the Valdrine formation, then detonated in carefully calculated positions. The result was devastating. Each missile became a cloud of high-velocity shrapnel, filling space with thousands of small but deadly fragments. The Valdrine shields, already weakened by sustained bombardment, couldn't stop them all. The fragments peppered the ships, tearing through armor, destroying external systems, and creating cascading failures. Shield failure on the Eternal Dominion. The Valdrine tactical officer's voice was panicked now. Multiple hull breaches. Engineering reports critical damage to the primary reactor. Thalrex stood frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. He had conquered 47 species. He had never lost a battle. And now, in the span of less than an hour, his fleet was being torn apart by a species that was supposed to be primitive. "Admiral, we must retreat." Vorath grabbed Thalrex's arm. "We must withdraw now or we'll lose everything." Thalrex finally moved. "All ships prepare for emergency FTL jump. We're pulling back." But when his crew tried to activate the faster-than-light drive, nothing happened. "Sir, FTL is offline. There's some kind of interference field. We can't jump." Vorath checked his displays and felt his blood run cold. "They have FTL interdiction fields active. They're not letting us leave." The tactical situation had completely reversed. The news traveled faster than light itself, carried on communication networks that spanned the galaxy. The Valdrine Imperium, undefeated for 10,000 years, had lost a battle. Not to another ancient empire, not to a technologically superior force, but to a species barely 2 centuries into space travel. Humanity. The reaction was unprecedented. On 4,000 Valdrine worlds, citizens refused to believe it at first. Then came shock. Then came questions. How could this happen? How could Admiral Thalrex, legendary conqueror, be defeated by primitives? Empress Calcina sat on her throne in the Imperial Palace, watching the battle recordings that Vorath had transmitted before the surrender. She watched in silence as the human trap unfolded. She saw the precision, the planning, the ruthless efficiency. When the recording ended, she sat in the darkness for a long time. "Your Majesty," her advisor said carefully, "the Council demands an explanation. They want to know how this happened." "I know how it happened," Calcina replied quietly. "We assumed they were weak because they were young. We assumed they would break because others had broken. We were wrong. On Earth, the celebration was tempered by the reality of what had just occurred. Humanity had won a battle, but they hadn't won peace." Fleet Admiral Minseo addressed the gathered leadership with a grim expression. "We've bloodied their nose," she said, "but the Valdrine Empire is vast. If they decide to commit their full forces against us, we'll be overwhelmed eventually. We need to use this victory to negotiate from a position of strength." "Negotiate what?" asked Counselor Haywan. "They came here to conquer us. And now they know we can't be conquered easily," Ambassador Daewon said. That changes the equation. They have to decide if subjugating humanity is worth the cost, and we need to make sure that cost appears very, very high. In the holding area of Defense Station 7, Sub-Commander Vorath sat alone in a secure room. The humans had treated him well, providing food and medical care. They had treated all the Valdrine prisoners with dignity, which somehow made the defeat worse. He had expected brutality from warriors who fought so effectively. Instead, he found professionalism and mercy. The door opened. Captain Hyunwoo entered, carrying 2 cups of what smelled like some kind of warm beverage. Tea, Hyunwoo explained, setting 1 cup in front of Vorath. It's a human tradition. We drink it when we need to have serious conversations. Vorath looked at the cup suspiciously, then at Hyunwoo. Why am I being treated so well? We came to conquer your worlds. Yes, you did. Hyunwoo agreed, sitting down across from him. And we stopped you. But you're not our enemy anymore. You're a prisoner of war, entitled to respect under our laws. Laws that protect those who tried to destroy you. Laws that protect everyone, even our enemies. That's what separates civilization from barbarism. Hyunwoo sipped his tea. I read your service record, Sub-Commander. You tried to warn Admiral Thalrex. You saw what we were capable of when others dismissed us. I saw the patterns in your history, Vorath said quietly. I knew you would fight. The Admiral refused to listen. A lot of people refuse to listen until it's too late. Hyunwoo set down his cup. I need your help, Vorath. We don't want to fight the entire Valdrine Empire. We want peace, but we need to understand how your government thinks, how they'll respond to this defeat. Why would I help you? Because you're smart enough to know that continuing this war benefits no one. Because you've already lost crew members you cared about. Because maybe, just maybe, you'd rather see your empire adapt than watch more ships burn. Vorath studied the human captain for a long moment. There was no deception in his face, no hidden cruelty, just earnest determination and a tired hope for something better than endless conflict. The Empress will want to save face, Vorath finally said. She can't appear weak before the other species in the Imperium. But she's pragmatic. If you offer her a way to end this without looking defeated, she might take it. What would that look like? A treaty. Not surrender, but mutual recognition. You acknowledge Valdrine's sovereignty over their territory. They acknowledge your sovereignty over yours. You establish formal diplomatic relations. Both sides claim they got what they wanted. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. We can work with that. 3 days later, the Galactic Council convened for an emergency session. The Council was an ancient organization, older than the Valdrine Imperium itself. It had no military power, but it provided a forum where the galaxy's civilizations could meet, negotiate, and resolve disputes. The council chamber was a massive structure floating in neutral space, accessible only through carefully controlled wormholes. Ambassador Daewon stood before representatives of 47 different species. Some were humanoid, others were utterly alien, beings of energy or silicon-based life forms that existed in ways he could barely comprehend. All of them stared at him with a mixture of curiosity, fear, and respect. Council Speaker Nixara, a being that resembled a collection of floating crystalline structures, addressed him in a voice that chimed like bells. Ambassador Daewon of Earth, the Council recognizes humanity for the first time. You bring a petition? I bring a proposal, Daewon said. Humanity seeks peaceful coexistence with all species. We have no desire for conquest or empire. We ask for recognition of our sovereignty over the systems we currently inhabit, and we offer formal diplomatic relations with any civilization that wishes them. You defeated a Valdrine fleet, Nixara observed. Many here fear you. They wonder what else humanity might do if provoked. We defend ourselves, Daewon said simply. Nothing more, nothing less. We were attacked without cause. We responded. We would have preferred peace. The Valdrine chose war. We won. Now we're choosing peace again. That should tell you everything you need to know about humanity's intentions. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species huddled in quick consultation. Finally, a representative from the Kelthian Concordat stood, a tall being with blue skin and 6 arms. The Kelthians support humanity's petition. We have reviewed the battle recordings. The humans fought defensively. They offered surrender terms. They treated prisoners with dignity. These are not the actions of a conquering species. Other voices joined in support. Not all. Some species remained suspicious. but enough spoke favorably that Nixara raised a crystalline appendage for silence. The Council will take humanity's petition under advisement. In the meantime, we recognize Earth's provisional right to their current territories pending formal review. It was a diplomatic way of saying humanity had earned a seat at the table, even if it wasn't a permanent one yet. As the session ended, Empress Calcina's hologram materialized beside Day One. The Valdrine ruler looked tired, her scales less vibrant than in her previous transmissions. "Ambassador," she said, "the Valdrine Imperium wishes to open formal negotiations with Earth." "We're listening, Your Majesty." "I have reviewed the battle recordings. I have read Subcommander Vorath's reports. I have consulted with my advisors." Calcina paused. "We made assumptions about your species that proved incorrect. We underestimated your capabilities and your determination. This was a failure of Imperial intelligence and judgment." "It was," Daewon agreed, seeing no point in softening the truth. "We do not wish to continue hostilities. The Imperium offers a non-aggression treaty. We will recognize your sovereignty over your current systems. We ask that you respect our borders in return, and we propose the establishment of formal diplomatic channels." "Those terms are acceptable to Earth," Daewon said. "But we want one more thing." Calcina's eyes narrowed. "Name it. A public apology. Not to humiliate you, but to make clear to every species in the galaxy that what happened at New Jeju was not our fault. You attacked us without provocation. We defended ourselves. We want that on the official record." The Empress was silent for a long moment. In Valdrine culture, public apologies were signs of weakness, but she was also a ruler who had held power for 2 centuries by knowing when to bend rather than break. "Agreed," she said finally. "I will issue a formal statement acknowledging that the Valdrine Imperium initiated hostilities without justification, and that humanity's response was defensive in nature. Then we have peace." "Your Majesty." The treaty was signed 3 weeks later. It was broadcast across the galaxy, watched by trillions of beings. Empress Calcina stood before the assembled Galactic Council and spoke words that had never been spoken by a Valdrine ruler. "The Imperium acknowledges its error in judgment regarding humanity. We initiated hostilities without proper cause. We underestimated their capabilities and their right to self-determination. We offer our formal apology and our commitment to peaceful coexistence." On Earth, people watched and cheered. On the 17 human colonies, celebrations erupted. They had faced extinction and survived. They had fought an empire and won. They had earned their place among the stars. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of the Morning Star, looking out at the new Jeju colony below. The world had taken some damage during the battle, but it was being rebuilt. Already, construction crews were repairing the damage and expanding the settlements. Dr. Yuna joined him, carrying 2 cups of tea. "Thought you might want this." "Thanks." Hyunwoo accepted the cup. "I've been thinking about what we did here." "Having regrets?" "No, but I've been wondering what happens next."